The city of Lagos had seen weddings. Glamorous, over-the-top, headline-making weddings, but none quite like that of Hannah Akintola and David Adefolorin. On that bright Saturday in December, it wasn't just a ceremony. It was an event. The who's who of Lagos society filled the air-conditioned hall at Eco Hotel, where the ceilings glittered with chandeliers and the guests shimmered in coordinated aso-ebi. The bride, radiant in her gold and ivory lace, walked down the aisle with the grace of a queen, her face glowing not just with makeup, but with love. She had waited patiently for the right man, and David was worth the wait. A tall, soft-spoken gentleman with broad shoulders and a commanding presence, David Adefolorin was already making waves as one of the top civil engineers in Nigeria. At just 34, he had led landmark construction projects across Lagos and Abuja. His name alone opened doors. Hannah, on the other hand, was the definition of beauty and brains. With a quiet elegance and a warm smile, she had carved her space in the finance world as a senior accountant in one of Nigeria's most reputable banks. She was the kind of woman whose presence made a room feel brighter, kind, thoughtful, with a deep love for her God and her husband. Their love story was one people talked about in hushed admiration. From the proposal at Whispering Palms to the traditional engagement filled with joyful dances and blessings, theirs was a union built on prayer, deep conversations, and genuine friendship. After their wedding, the couple moved into their freshly built duplex in Lekki Phase 1, a home they designed together from the ground up. Every corner of that house held a story. The reading nook David built for her, the kitchen island she insisted on, and the prayer room they decorated first. They lived comfortably but never arrogantly. Vacations to Zanzibar, Sunday brunch at fancy restaurants, surprise gifts, and long walks on the beach. They made time for each other. And then, in their second year of marriage, joy came in the form of a soft cry, the birth of their son, Obaloluwa David Adefolorin. That naming ceremony was another talk of the town moment. Their mansion was filled with music, prayers, and laughter. Elderly women sang Yoruba Oriki to bless the child. Colleagues from the bank and engineering firm brought generous gifts. David's father, Chief Adefolorin, danced with pride while holding his first grandson in his arms. Hannah's mother wept silently as she watched her daughter glow in motherhood. They called him Obaloluwa, meaning God is the King, because they knew the child was not just a blessing, but a destiny unfolding. Life was good. They were that couple people envied, the ones who made marriage look easy. Laughter often echoed through the Adefolorin home, and love sat comfortably in the spaces between their conversations. Even little Obaloluwa, barely 2, seemed to carry the happiness of the house in his chubby cheeks and cheeky smile. But no one ever expects the ground beneath them to give way. It happened suddenly, just shy of their 3rd anniversary. David returned home one evening, his face unreadable, his briefcase hanging loosely from his hand. He didn't greet Hannah with his usual kiss. He simply stood in the middle of the living room, looking like a man whose world had just shifted. "They let me go," he said. Hannah blinked. "What do you mean?" "My contract. It's been terminated." He didn't cry. He didn't raise his voice. But Hannah knew her husband. She saw the pain in his eyes, the disbelief, the quiet shame, the betrayal. He had given the company 5 years of excellence, designed high-rise foundations, traveled cross-country for inspections, sacrificed weekends and nights. And still, somehow, whispers from envious colleagues had turned into meetings, and meetings into accusations, and now, silence. "I didn't even see it coming," he finally whispered. Hannah stood and wrapped her arms around him. "Listen to me, David. You are not your job. You are a renowned engineer, a brilliant one. This is just a bend, not the end. We'll be okay." Her voice was steady, but her heart pounded. Still, she meant every word. She took over the bills without complaining. The mortgage, the food, the nanny, even their church donations. She adjusted her routine, packing homemade lunches, cutting back on luxuries, keeping the house filled with warmth so her husband wouldn't feel the cold of disappointment. David tried to stay strong. Every morning after she left for work, he sat at his laptop, applying, updating his CV, reaching out to old contacts. He even registered for new certifications. When the international firms didn't respond, he humbly applied to small, local firms, startups, construction teams, anyone hiring. Weeks turned into months. He got polite rejections. Some didn't respond at all. And each time he closed his laptop without an offer, a little piece of his confidence chipped away. He avoided outings. He stopped wearing his wristwatch. Some nights, he sat in the backyard long after Obaloluwa had gone to bed, staring into space. But Hannah never gave up on him. She would sit beside him, place his head on her lap and whisper, "This is just the valley. I married you for who you are, not what you earn. We'll rise again." And this time higher. David didn't always answer, but her words stayed with him, like a quiet anchor keeping him from drowning. Time passed, and with it came long, heavy silences that filled the corners of their new reality. David no longer spoke as much. He ate less, slept even less. His shoulders, once squared with pride and purpose, now drooped with a burden he refused to share completely. But Hannah could feel it, like a weight on her own chest. Then, one quiet morning, as she folded Obaloluwa's clothes by the window, David walked in, slower than usual, a phone still clutched in his hand. "Kelvin," he said flatly. "Kelvin." She looked up, unsure. "My friend. The one I used to talk about from university. He's doing business now. Importing civil engineering parts and heavy tools. I told him everything. He says he can put me through, but..." David paused and sat slowly on the edge of the bed. "It will require capital. Serious capital." "How much?" Hannah asked, already feeling her stomach turn. He looked at her for a moment, then said it in a whisper. "Nigerian naira 800 million. Hannah blinked, a faint laugh escaping her in disbelief. "David, 800 million Nigerian nairas. From where?" "I know," he nodded quickly. "I know it sounds mad. But Kelvin says the returns are strong. The connections are solid. It's what I know. It's my field. I can rise again, Hannah." There was a silence between them again, the kind that doesn't ask for a response. Then David sighed deeply, like a man ready to betray his own pride. "There's only one way I can raise any of that kind of money," he said, eyes darting away from hers. We have to sell the house." The words landed like bricks. Hannah froze, her hands still gripping Obaloluwa's shirt. "The house?" David nodded, still not looking her in the eye. "This house. It's the only major thing in my name. The only thing worth enough to bring in something. Not all of it. I know it won't be 800 million Nigerian nairas, but it'll give me leverage. We can rent somewhere smaller for now. I'll figure out the rest." The weight of his words began to suffocate her. Their home, the place that saw their beginning, their wedding night, Obaloluwa's naming ceremony, her laughter echoing down the staircase, his prayers whispered into the kitchen wall. He turned away. Her tears came silently at first, then in waves. "David, you want us to lose everything." He turned to her now, finally, and what she saw in his eyes was not pride, not desperation, but a terrifying emptiness. "I'd rather lose the house than lose my mind, Hannah," he said, voice cracking. "You know what depression is turning me into. You've seen it. If I don't do something now, if I keep watching you shoulder this alone, if Oba starts asking why I'm always lying on the bed, I swear I don't know what will happen." And that was the first time she saw it. The real fear, not of poverty, but of losing himself completely. She dropped to her knees before him, held his hand to her chest, and through tears whispered, "Then promise me, David, whatever happens you won't give up. Don't talk about suicide again. Please. I don't care where we sleep, how we live. I just don't want to bury the man I married." He nodded, sobbing now. They held each other like people drowning together, not knowing where the shore was, but refusing to let go. Within days, they found a small, decent apartment on the mainland. Obaloluwa didn't understand much. He still ran around the boxes happily. But Hannah and David knew. Each box packed was a memory folded away. And the mansion sat like a ghost behind them, silent, waiting. It took 3 weeks for David to find a buyer. When the house was finally sold, the amount brought in was a far cry from the 800 million Nigerian nairas they had hoped for. But it was something to hold on to, something to try again with, something to stop the silence from swallowing them whole. But deep down they both knew, their story had only just begun. The living room was quiet that night, too quiet. A kind of silence that made Hannah feel like the walls were pressing in. David had just returned from another long walk, the kind he now took when his thoughts grew too loud. He stood by the bedroom door, hesitant, holding back the words he knew would hurt. "Hannah," he finally said, his voice low. "We need to sell the cars." She turned around sharply, confusion laced with disbelief flashing across her eyes. "Sell the cars?" she echoed, almost laughing. "David, we've already sold the house. You want us to sell our dignity too?" "It's not about dignity," David said, walking closer. "It's about surviving now to build something bigger. I've done the math. If we sell both cars, it will help us meet Kelvin's estimate. This is our chance, Hannah. It's not just a business, it's our comeback." Hannah's chest rose and fell, trying to hold back tears that were already forming. "So, I'll go to work every morning, standing at a bus stop like someone who never had anything? You want people to look at me and pity me, David? Is that what you want?" David's eyes darkened with frustration. "I want my life back, Hannah. I want to stop feeling like a failure every morning I wake up under this strange ceiling in this rented apartment. I want to build something for us, for Abalaliwa. And what do I want?" she snapped, voice rising. "Do you think I enjoy this either? Do you think I don't cry when I see our son ask for his old toys we left behind? Or when I enter a bank client's office smelling like sweat because I had to jump Danfo in the rain?" David's voice cracked. "Then let them laugh, Hannah. Let them talk. If they haven't cried our tears or felt our pain, their opinions are noise. I'm trying to stay sane, Hannah. I'm trying not to drown in this failure." She stood there, stunned, breathing heavily. "Then soothe yourself," she said bitterly, her voice trembling. "Do whatever you like." And with that, she stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. The next morning, she watched silently from the kitchen window as a car dealer arrived with 2 mechanics. David handed over the keys. First hers, then his. She didn't speak to him that day. She didn't have to. The hollow space in the driveway was loud enough. Within the week, the cars were sold. Their garage now echoed with emptiness. But strangely, there was a shift in the air between them. Like something old had broken, and something new was trying to breathe. David called Kelvin. The payment was made. The container of civil engineering parts was on its way. 1 month. That's what they were told. That night, Hannah leaned against David on the couch as Abalaliwa played with a plastic cup on the floor, making a joyful mess. For the first time in weeks, they laughed. Not because they had found all the answers, but because they had found strength in each other. "We'll get everything back, won't we?" she whispered. David kissed the top of her head. "No, we'll get more than we lost." The news came like a gentle breeze on a hot day. Hannah was pregnant. She had held the test in her shaking hands that morning, eyes wide with disbelief, heart pounding in her chest. For a moment, she couldn't even breathe. After all the pain, the prayers, the quiet nights of unspoken longing, this baby. She rushed to David with the news, barely able to contain her joy. And when she told him, he didn't speak at first. He just stared, eyes blinking back tears, lips trembling into a smile that slowly broke into laughter. He pulled her into a hug so tight, she almost melted. They stayed like that, laughing, crying, whispering, "Thank you, Jesus," over and over again. Felt like things were finally aligning. The container of goods was expected in just a few days. The business was about to begin, and now, a child, their child. David moved with fresh energy. He began clearing space for the new inventory, made notes, sorted out contacts, even looked up baby names late at night, while Hannah dozed off beside him, hand on her belly. Then came the day before the delivery. David decided to call Kelvin to double-check how the goods would be offloaded. No response. He tried again, and again. The number rang endlessly, then switched off. He frowned but waved it off. Probably network trouble, he thought. Maybe he's just busy. But the next day, the actual day the container was meant to arrive, David called again. Still nothing. Panic crawled up his throat. By the third day, something snapped. He called an old friend who used to be close with Kelvin and explained everything. How he paid for the container, how it was supposed to land this week, how he couldn't reach Kelvin anymore. There was a pause on the other end of the line. David, Kelvin don't travel na. I saw him at the airport last week, Tuesday. Said he was leaving the country. I thought you knew. David's knees buckled. His phone slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. His lips moved, but no words came out. He just stared. That evening, when Hannah came home from work, she knew something was wrong the moment she stepped through the door. David was sitting on the bare floor, staring into nothing, his shoulders sunken. When she asked what happened, he couldn't speak. He just held out the phone with the call log and muttered, "He's gone. Kelvin. He left. With everything." Hannah sank beside him, her palm flying to her mouth. And there, in the quiet of their modest home, husband and wife cried. Together. On the same floor where they had once prayed for a breakthrough, they now wept over betrayal. David moved close and held her. His voice cracked as he whispered, "Please remember you're pregnant." "Sorry, I didn't see this coming." Through her tears, Hannah asked, "What do we do now?" David couldn't answer. He buried his face in her lap, broken. "I've failed you," he said. "I'm a failure." And they sat there, two hearts crushed by hope, two lives trying not to drown in disappointment. But the night wasn't over yet. The night was cold, but David couldn't feel it. He sat outside on the front step, arms folded, eyes blank, staring into the quiet street like it could offer some kind of answer. The porch light flickered slightly above his head, casting long shadows across the tiled floor. He hadn't spoken in hours. Not since the phone call. Not since the betrayal. Hannah sat beside him, wearing a long wrapper and cardigan she had thrown on in a hurry. She had followed him out hours ago, but he hadn't said a word since. She had pleaded, knelt, even held his hand briefly, but David stayed stiff and silent like a man whose heart had been ripped open. His eyes were wide awake, but it was clear. His soul was somewhere else. "David, please," Hannah whispered again, her voice breaking under the weight of exhaustion and emotion. "Come inside. You haven't eaten. Just come inside." Still silence. She bit her lower lip to stifle a sob. "I didn't know when I came home today I was coming to share news. Joyful news. But what I met, what I saw in your eyes scared me, David." No response. Just the sound of crickets and the occasional whoosh of a passing car. She gathered courage and gently touched his arm. "You've been through a lot. We both have. But you don't have to carry this alone. Please say something." For the first time in hours, David turned slowly toward her. His eyes were red, swollen. His lips trembled as he finally whispered, "Talk. Just talk. What is it all about?" Hannah inhaled deeply. Her fingers nervously twisted the edge of her wrapper. "There are two things I came home with today," she said, her voice shaking. "One is bad. The other is good. Which do you want first?" David let out a bitter laugh, dry and pained. "Let's start with the bad. We're already in the pit anyway." She swallowed hard. The bank is downsizing. They've been affected by this economic crisis, and they're letting people go. I'm not sure if I'll still have a job by next week. I've been praying all day. I didn't even tell anyone at work. I didn't want to speak it out loud. David's jaw clenched. A slow tear slid down his cheek. "But," Hannah continued, her voice now breaking into a sob, "that's not all. That's not what I wanted to share with you tonight. David looked at her with hollow eyes. Then tell me the second news. Hannah's lips trembled as she said it. We're having twins, David. 2 girls. I went for the scan after work today. I wanted to surprise you. I didn't even plan to cry, but the moment I saw them on that screen, moving, alive, David's hand flew to his face. He wept openly now. Hannah leaned in closer, resting her head on his shoulder, both of them trembling under the weight of fear, love, and the unknown. David's voice cracked as he finally spoke. Twins. Girls. His lips curved into a broken smile. How do I take care of these gifts from God when everything is falling apart? She took his hand and held it firmly. We will find a way. We always do. He nodded slowly, his tears dripping onto the back of her hand. I feel like I failed you, Hannah. No, she whispered. You're still here. That's what matters. You didn't fail. Life hit us. But we're still here. Under the dim porch light, they held each other. A husband and wife, broken but bound, mourning the uncertainty, and quietly celebrating a miracle. The house no longer felt like home. It felt like an echo chamber of unspoken words and unanswered prayers. David hardly spoke. He moved like a ghost, present but not really there. His eyes always looked distant, as though trapped in a place no one else could reach. Even when Hannah placed food before him, he would nod faintly or say, "Thank you," without lifting his eyes. She would force a smile, but behind it was a woman begging heaven to wake her husband up. Then came the final blow. Exactly 1 week after the night Hannah shared the news of the twins, she came home with her brown envelope. Her hands trembled as she opened it on the couch. Due to the company's financial downturn, she didn't need to read more. She knew what it meant. She had been laid off. That evening, Hannah didn't cry. She simply walked into the bedroom, sat beside David and whispered, "They let me go today." David didn't blink. He simply nodded once, then kept staring at the wall like nothing happened, like everything wasn't crashing. The twins still kicked in her belly. Life still moved inside her, but everything around them was slowly dying. They sat down every night to think, to calculate, pray, to brainstorm 1001 ways to come out of the storm. David suggested starting a laundry business. Hannah mentioned selling pastries. They thought of mobile tailoring, car wash, data resell. Anything. But everything needed something they didn't have: money. David began calling old friends, old classmates, and even men he hadn't spoken to in 10 years. Some were kind, some were cold. A few sent 5,000 Nigerian nairas, 10,000 Nigerian nairas here and there. Family tried. Hannah's younger brother would occasionally send money for baby things. One of David's cousins paid for DSTV for 3 months and sent groceries once. They were grateful, but it never lasted. Things got worse. The cupboards became empty more times than they could count. There were days only pap and salt were in the kitchen. They'd sit on the couch, pretending not to be hungry, hoping one of them would be strong enough to suggest, "Let's sleep it off." Auntie Alero became an angel in disguise. She had a small mini-mart just a street away. She noticed Hannah walking slower one day and called her in. "Auntie, I don't have cash right now. I was just passing." "Hannah," she interrupted gently, "come and take what you need. You can pay later." That day, Hannah left with Gary, beans, milk, sanitary pads and baby wipes. She walked home sobbing. From then on, Auntie Alero quietly helped them survive. Every week, she'd allow them take things on credit. And whenever David or Hannah had something, even if it was 2,000 Nigerian nairas, they paid back bit by bit. The house that once held joy and laughter now held survival and silence. But somehow, they were still standing. That morning, the house was quieter than usual. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful, it feels heavy. David had been sitting on the edge of the couch for almost an hour, head bowed, elbows on his knees, lost in thought. Then he stood up slowly and told Hannah in a tired voice, "Let me go and check Auntie Alero. Maybe she'll give us just a few things again. Abalaliwa needs his soap and cereal. It was 11 a.m. Hannah had wanted to offer him something encouraging, maybe a hopeful word, maybe a prayer, but the words got stuck in her throat. She only nodded. Her back ached, her feet were swollen, and she could barely stand long enough to walk him to the door. By 12:15 p.m., David hadn't returned. By 12:45 she started pacing. By 1 o'clock, she checked the bedroom and realized he didn't go with his phone. Why would he leave without it today of all days? She whispered to herself, her heart tightening with unease. And then a loud, frantic knock. She wobbled to the door as fast as she could and opened it. It was one of their neighbors, breathing hard, drenched in sweat. "Auntie Hannah, come quickly. They're beating your husband, oh." Across the road, near the junction. "They said he's a thief. They're about to burn him." Hannah froze. What are you saying?" "My husband," she stuttered, clutching her belly. "What did he do?" The neighbor grabbed her hand. "Please hurry, before it's too late." Without a second thought, she rushed inside, slung baby Abalaliwa on her back with trembling hands, and tied the wrapper in one big knot. Tears streamed down her face. Her vision blurred as she stumbled out the door, barefoot, heavily pregnant, heart in her throat. Her arms shook, and each step felt like it could be her last, but she kept going. She ran toward the screams, toward the smoke, toward the man she loved. "David!" The sound ripped from her like a wounded animal, echoing through the dusty street. Watch out for the concluding part. Thanks for watching. Kindly subscribe, like, and comment.